morning. My name is LaShonda, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the Infrastructure Management Global Community Webcast. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question-and-answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press the pound key. Thank you. I will now turn today's conference over to Mr. Steve Guthrie, Advisor, Agile Operations, to begin. Please go ahead.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening for those of you who are on the live call or for those of you listening to the recorded version. My name is Steve Guthrie, and we've assembled a impressive roster today of experts from our product management and pre-sales team to help guide you through an update on Unified Infrastructure Management 8.4. Our agenda today will begin with Robert Vacanti giving you a brief overview of a key feature as part of 8.4, as well as 3 integrations that have been packaged and now available for UIM 8.4. And then we'll go through a short description of each one of these features presented by either Terry McElvaney, Jason Brick, or Dan Broska. So Terry will do the monitoring configuration service. Jason will talk about the spectrum integration. Dan Broska will talk about the integrations with application delivery analysis and network flow analysis. And then we'll review the chat window for any questions that you have, and we'll also open up the lines. With that, I'm going to pass the ball, if you will, to Robert, who will give you a brief overview and then introduce Terry. Robert?
Great, thanks, Steve. As Steve mentioned, my name is Robert Vacanti. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Unified Infrastructure Management. We're very excited about the 8.4 release. This is a brand new release that came out on February 16th, so it's very fresh. Do note that this was one of our releases that we actually came off of the normal cadence that we've been on in order to take some time and add a couple more features, and also to track back and fix a bunch of items that we had requests to get changed, so we had the opportunity to do that as well. The 4 items that we're going to be talking about that are part of the 8.4 release, our marquee feature is the monitoring configuration service. This is an exciting enhancement that we've made to the product, which makes it much easier to configure your individual probes and to do so in a manner that allows you to do it in bulk across a large part of your infrastructure. So Terry will be talking to this, but kind of as the preview, you can do a configuration, apply it to a group, and the system takes care of the rest rather than asking you or your administrators to do a lot of heavy lifting. And then in the following 3 items are all about the vision of having a unified management console where lots of the different CA products are accessible all from within one single pane of glass. So the CA spectrum integration is allowing you to deal with both events and inventory all from within one single console, and to be able to have UIM and Spectrum talk to each other and make sure that that information is staying in sync. And then CA application delivery analysis, or ADA, making it possible for within the normal UIM interface, working with USM, able to see detailed information about the specific applications that perhaps are problematic or that you need additional information on within the interface. It's all integrated. It's right there alongside all the other normal information that you have when you're looking at either a network device. You now can see details about which piece of which application is having what type of flow problems. And then finally, network flow analysis, which when perhaps you have a problem with bandwidth or something that's happening on the network and you need to understand specifically more information about the traffic that's flowing on your network, you can see that information in a lot more detail. Now, all of these are going to be covered in a lot more detail, but this is for us an exciting release. And again, I wanted to talk about, put in one additional plug, that we actually were able to solve over 100 open customer tickets with additions that were made. So while these 4 features represent the things that were added that were large and significant, there were 100 additional things that people had requested that we were able to either get fixed or to get added that weren't previously in the product. So we're pretty proud of that, and we hope you have the opportunity to download and utilize the UIM 8.4 release. So with that, let's take a look at the monitoring configuration service, and for that, I'm going to turn it over to Terry. Terry, Take it away.
Thank you very much. My name is Terry McElvaney. I'm the product manager in charge of getting the monitoring configuration service into UIM this last release. So we'll go ahead and show quickly some of the things that we were trying to resolve was to be able to configure monitoring for large-scale deployment in our DevOps environment, perform administrative and triage within the same UI tool. Monitoring configuration needs to be simple, easy to use. And so with that, what we ended up doing was bringing in MCS, which gives us the ability to configure monitoring at the device level or at the group level, and then be able to populate that throughout your environment with a copy function. So if you have a set of devices that you like, you want the same monitoring policies applied, you would configure it in one location, copy it over to a major group, and then be able to apply that same monitoring profile to hundreds or even thousands of devices. So with that, we'll go into the demo. Let me see. Just try to find where to click the button.
Top right, right in the middle of the page.
Terry, you're going to want to go to Share My Screen. Share in the upper.
There we go.
Yeah. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you. Okay. So here we see we've logged into the UMP. And the first thing that we're looking for is the Unified Service Manager, or USM. Within USM is where you build out all of your groups. Here you can see what I've selected here is a set of groups for this TIX exchange. And here's all the servers. So the first identifier that I want to talk about is when setting up a group for MCS to apply MCS profiles to that group. The first thing that you'll need to do is after the group is set up, you'll need to identify a device type. This device type is the model which all of the profiles that are going to be applied in that group. So we'll have everything that the profiles are based upon will be this device itself. So we'll go ahead and we can come down to the individual systems.
Terry, can you make your UIM screen bigger on your?
I can.
Okay, thank you. I don't expect people to necessarily read it, but if it could be larger, that'd be awesome.
All right. USM seems to be having a difficult time loading within the demo environment. Let's see if we can get this to log back in and see if this works a little better. There we go. My apologies. The demo environment seems to be slowing down a little bit.
So Terry, one thing that we can do is we can come back to you.
Okay. I'm not sure why this is all of a sudden slowing down like to this point.
Yeah. So why don't we move on to Jason Brick and have Jason talk about the spectrum integration. And we'll give you a chance to see if you can fix things in the background. Alec, I think you're online if need be. Could you fire up open access and maybe Terry could use that for his demo. Can you go offline with Terry and work that out?
So I'll transfer the ball over to Jason.
Yeah, please and thank you. I think if you just highlight his name, it will, yeah, there you go.
There it goes.
You're on, Jason.
All right. Let me go to advance the slide here. So I'm here to talk about the spectrum integration that we'll be releasing shortly after 8.4 and with Spectrum 10.1.1. So just be 100% transparent, the integration is going to be coming out as a post-release to 8.4 and also a post-release to 10.1. So it's currently slated for 10.1.1. And I believe it's 8.4.01 is what's tentatively scheduled for the release. I do want to speak a little bit about it, though, because we've been talking about it in subsequent webcasts, roadmaps, et cetera. So again, the main idea, right, is to tighten up the integration across the products so we can start leveraging data that we get from a UIM perspective as well as from a CA spectrum. Right, so the new things that are going to be added into this, right, we already had the ability to take data out of UIM, inventory, and visualize that up into CA spectrum. We did get alarming data up in there as well, so that's going to continue on. What's added additionally into this is to really go reverse, right? So let me take all the alarms that I have out of spectrum, right, utilizing its root cause analysis, utilizing its ability to, suppress symptomatic alarms, and let me go ahead and just bring my root cause alarm over to my UIM console. This way, if you're used to, comfort with your console of looking at things from a UIM perspective, that I don't necessarily go ahead and switch consoles to go ahead and get, the intelligence that we have within our CA Spectrum fault management product. Along with that, as mentioned, right, so the symptomatic alarms, if you're familiar with Spectrum, Spectrum does a phenomenal job in only giving you the root cause or an actionable alarm, right? And it'll automatically suppress what we call symptomatic alarms to the root cause. So this way we can actually view then those symptomatic alarms out of Spectrum. Those will be seen directly within the alarm view, right? This way it eliminates the noise within the UIM console from an alarming perspective. And then we, don't need to look at non-actionable type alarms. What's also been added into this is a bidirectional alarm update, right? So this way, if we're closing alarms within one, it's going to close another. So for example, if I close or update in UIM, it's going to clear and or update in Spectrum. And if we clear or update in Spectrum, right, it's going to close and or update the alarm within UIM. Right, so this way we don't have to be clearing those or administering alarms in two different places. I do it from one spot, it's going to do it in the other, and then vice versa within that. Last but not least, what was added into this was the capability to take global collection inventory and send it down to UIM, right? So we've had this with other type of integrations before where I don't need to necessarily reinvent the wheel, or I can eliminate redundant processes by trying to figure out what network devices or what types of devices I want to bring down into UIM, right? So I would set up my global collection. My global collection would contain the devices that I want to push over then to UIM, right? And then we can selectively have the ability to, pass certain devices, et cetera. So there'll be some filtering capabilities. Optionally, within that as well, we'll have the ability to do a launch and context from both sides. So from CA Spectrum, I'll be able to launch in context into UIM, and then from UIM, I'd be able to launch back in context into CA Spectrum. And unfortunately, so I'm not going to demo this today. As I mentioned, it's not GA yet. It'll be post-release of 8.4 and 10.1. But definitely be looking for an upcoming session that I will be co-hosting with probably Kieran DeWalker that will cover more of this integration as well as some of the features that are going to be released in Spectrum 10.1 or have been released within 10.1. I apologize.
Awesome, Jason. I just want to call out to folks on the call that we welcome your questions in the Q&A window. So please feel free to fill that up. With that, Jason, can you pass the ball to Dan? Take it away, Dan.
Thank you very much. So, Dan Broska, I'm going to be covering the application delivery analysis and the CA network flow analysis integrations with CA unified infrastructure management. High level CA application delivery analysis, for those that were not aware, this is providing information about the delivery of applications across the IT infrastructure, helping do that initial triage, determining if when an application is slow, how much of that delay is caused to server response time, how much of that delay is caused by network round trip time, and be able to identify those and show exactly how much of the delay is within those major segments. This is now integrated within the UIM solution, and you're able to select servers and see statistics relevant to that server and the applications that it provides and how things are performing. We also have integration now into the network flow analysis, which provides information about the volume of traffic on the network infrastructure, helping identify who's using bandwidth and what they're using it for.
Can you get to it? All right.
So one of the things this is showing is the volume of that traffic,
right, let's see
whether that's what applications are being used and what's taking place.
I mean, I can get onto mine.
So some of the panelists, just make sure that you're muted.
Harry, mute your phone, please.
And now that it's part of the UIM infrastructure, we're able to select some of the network devices and see additional information about the different links that are there and exactly the type of that traffic. And with that, I'll actually show some of this.
And is this where we cross our fingers?
Absolutely. So, and I will log in. All right, go ahead, Steve. Cross your fingers. So this is the demo system. So it is synthetic data that we're sending. We have a few devices in here, and what I'm going to do is I'll go through and show you some of these integrations where you can see both ADA and NFA data within the UIM views.
So this is interesting, Dan. This is a different system than Terry's, right?
It is.
Yeah. I wonder if WebEx is not our friend. Okay, there you go. Whew.
Yeah. Add across both fingers there. So here we can see that there are some alarms. I have created a tick change application. Expanding that out, I can see that there's web servers some network elements, database servers, app servers, and I'm going to focus in first on some of our web servers. Here we have two web front ends. We have some alarms, and you can see on the right-hand side we're populating some very traditional type statistics about what's taking place on this server. As we look at some of the alarms, we can get an idea of things that have taken place. Obviously, the critical alarm there, Tomcat wasn't running. That would certainly present a problem for a web service. The minor alarm that we had is indicating that there was some network-related issues. In particular, some locations were running slow when accessing the information provided by this particular server. We can get more information about it, history, metrics, but in particular, I want to go look at the Advanced tab. And now you see a brand new set of information. So this is part of the integration from the application delivery analysis solution, where we're bringing in information about application delivery across that network infrastructure. So we're able to determine that, in fact, we are seeing packet loss. And we're seeing this because we're actually seeing a copy of the same packet more than once. So we're able to definitively say, yes, the server sent that same packet again because it disappeared somewhere along the path. We're able to identify that at the same time that we had this loss in packets, we also had connection time slowdown. We understand that there was a response time slowdown. And as we scroll down, we can see that, in fact, there was even refused sessions. One of the new graphs that we have folks out there that are used to using application delivery analysis or UIM, the downstream dependency chart that we have here. This is brand new. It's not available in any other view. This is the first time we've made it available. And what we've done is mined the rich data set that application delivery analysis has about the relationships that are actually taking place between the different servers. So we can understand that the Web1 TixChange server is actually communicating to two other servers, and we can drill in on those and get additional information about those downstream dependencies. Frequently when applications are deployed, there's relationships that development staff, server staff, and network staff aren't aware of. So any type of transformation that you might be having in your environment, very, very helpful to have this information. Certainly, if we're looking to get additional information about any of these graphs, you'll see this little pop-up, and you have the ability to launch into the ADA view. So by selecting this, we'll jump over, and we'll have the ability to go right over within the ADA view. So now that we're in there, we can continue to perform a lot of the traditional actions that we would within the application delivery analysis interface. Now, based on this information, I can see that Florida had the most packet loss there. I have the ability to now go up into the network-based elements and get a better understanding of exactly what's taking place here. So with this, I can get an understanding of exactly the type of performance that I have on some of these different Cisco routers. Be able to look at the type of traffic that was traversing it by understanding flow-based data. So this is the second integration where we have network flow analysis, providing information about who's using bandwidth and what they're using it for. We can get full details about the router, but clicking on interfaces would give us additional view into what type of links are there and exactly the utilization. Now, selecting one of these links gives us the ability to get more information about that particular link. So that's going to include your stacked protocol trend. And we'll be able to understand what type of protocol. So here we can certainly see a spike in traffic. Now, if we wanted to go look at the parent, because that's the one under alarm, we could do that as well. Again, being able to look at these interfaces and see that, you know what, on our wide area gigabit 3, I also had a similar spike. So here, I'm able to identify that, in fact, it is YouTube traffic. It's a large spike in traffic. And as I scroll down, I can also look and see if I have any discards taking place. And lo and behold, I was discarding traffic as well. We have top hosts, so give you an idea of who's using that bandwidth and that top conversation, where that conversation is taking place, what sites they might be going to. And in this case, because of our flow data, we can understand that it's actually YouTube traffic. Now, under our Advanced tab, I can get even more information about this type of traffic on that link. We have the ability to show you toss markings and very easily determine that, you know what, that YouTube traffic was actually in the business critical queue. And we can see that if it wasn't in the business critical queue, maybe if it was in the default queue or low priority queue, that spike in traffic would not have impacted the ability for our web server to deliver to those end customers, to those end users. Just like we have in the application delivery analysis, within the integration we have with the network flow analysis, we have the ability to launch into the underlying solution. So by clicking that little note, we can drill down and see it here as well. And certainly we can see the stacked protocol trend and adjust this and even get that overview of exactly what's happening, be able to look at those conversations, to look at the toss markings as well. And with that, let me jump back over into the presentation.
So Dan, you can back up. Questions? Yeah, so Dan, you can back up to Terry. Terry, I think you're ready now.
That is correct. So I'll need to share Robert Vacante's screen.
Okay, so Dan, pass the ball to Robert.
Robert.
Yeah, sure.
And while you're doing that, Jason and Dan, there are a couple questions in the chat window. I can see Tyler is working away at answering some, but please take a look and see if there are some questions that aren't answered that you can help us with. Back to you, Terry.
Thank you. My apologies. It appears that the browsers on my system were all of a sudden having some difficulty accessing this system. But as we can see from Dan's system and my system, and the new system that I've got, we're able to access it pretty easily. So where it was before is MCS is designed to be able to apply monitoring to both groups and devices. After you've created your group and added some devices to there, one of the aspects of this that you're going to need to make sure that you do is enable the device type or the model. And what that is the device model represents the sets of devices in this group. So you're going to create a template, if you will, that the profile can be applied to all other devices. So as you see here in this example, the device model for this group, all servers, is the TIG Exchange App 1. So here you will see it's for this system. So any of these profiles that you see that have already been applied will be using this system as its model. So this is very critical, because if you get to a system that does not have that, you'll just see a blank, middle pane with no templates and nothing that you're able to select. So what we recommend while doing this is that you pick a system either within that group or a representative system in another group, and begin to make apply your monitoring to a device. And what that'll do is that allows you to set this up in such a manner that you will be able to prove out what QoS, what QoS you want, what alarm strategy you want, and then be able to copy that from that specific device up to the group level. So here we can go into a monitor, and we'll select the profile. And so this is at the device level. So on the device itself, we're going to take a look at this profile. And from this profile, you'll be able to select what QoS you want, CPU usage, processor queue length, alarms, and everything else. And then here, you'll notice in the middle, there's an option here to be able to copy this. So once you are able to select that, you'll be able to change this and be able to copy this profile up to the group. So what will happen here is that the list of groups that are available to be copied to will be a part of this pull down. Here we go. And so you can either copy it back up to your TIX Exchange, all servers, the group that we are actually in right now, or any of the other subgroups. Now, the other point that I want to make on this is that it goes all the way back to that device type. If a device type is not selected, it will not be applied. It will not be a part of these groups. So you'll have to make sure that you identify that device type for the group configuration to be able to copy profiles. So as we move back up, we'll move back up to the group level, and we'll show that the profile has been copied down once we get everything to So we'll take a look at this CPU monitor, and after it had been created at the device level, and it'll be copied down, you'll be able to see down here on the bottom that this profile was deployed to 5 systems. So basically all the systems that are in that group. And you can also see here if there's anything in pending or in a failed deployment as well. And so then you'll be able, if you go to the specific system within that group, you'll also be able to identify where did this profile come from. So when you're doing the auditing of your systems and you want to know where the profiles or what profiles have been applied and where did they come from, you'll see right here that this CPU monitor profile has been applied to this device specifically from the group level. So you'll be able to check, you'll be able to see where all of your profiles come from, how they're done, and once again you'll be able to apply a single profile or single monitoring to hundreds, if not thousands, of devices. The other component that we wanted to speak to here is the other aspect that's a benefit of the MCS is the fact that we're trying to move away from the probe and paradigm and be able to monitor what you want to monitor. If I want to monitor CPU, we go into CPU monitoring rather than configuring the CDM probe. And all the work is done in the background to identify, to push down that probe to a robot that is within that group and to be able to apply that configuration to there as well. And so with that, that's pretty much everything that we're within The MCS, that's a quick overview of everything. We identify which probes are on here, which probes need licenses or need to be moved from the web archive. So there's a lot of other benefits that will come along with this. So let me see if I can find any questions here.
So Terry, while you're doing that, would you mind just forwarding to the last slide?
All righty. So let's go ahead and
And Tyler, great job answering questions. I think you've kept up with most, if not all. I know Jason Brick was on the line. I don't know if Jason, you're still there. There was a question about Spectrum. I know Jason had a customer call in while he's on the WebEx here, so he may be off on another call at this point. Tyler, how are you doing on answering questions? I see there's a couple.
There's a few more to go.
Yeah, yeah. And Melissa, can you remind folks if they want to come on and ask a live question, how they do that?
At this time, if you would like to ask an audio question, please press *1 on your telephone keypad.
Thank you, LaShonda.
And we do have a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, while we're waiting for any questions that come in, just point out that on Thursday we'll have an office hours session. So if we don't get to your question today or between now and Thursday you come up with other questions around whether it's UIM 8.4, the monitoring configuration service, or any of the integrations that we've talked about today, please join us for a chat only. There's no audio. For those of you familiar with office hours, it's chat only. We had some real good office hour sessions over the last few weeks, so join us then if we run out of time today to answer all the questions.
And we do have an audio question from the line of Michael Arnone.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. With the MCS and when you're doing that configuration, can you go over like how things work with a group level or with individual level, you know, priorities or which one's going to take precedence, you know, questions along those lines is what I'm looking for. Like if you assign a setting individually to a machine versus a group, you know, is it going to combine them? Is it going to one step on the other? Those kind of situations.
Gary, can you take that?
I apologize. I was answering a question on the chat window. Could you repeat the question real quick?
Yes. When you're using the MCS to set the configurations on machines, when you have a configuration on a group level and a configuration on a single machine, or what if a group is nested, which one's going to take priority, or is it going to combine them? Is it going to just strictly go switch from one to the other in priority? That's the kind of thing I'm looking for.
There's two mechanisms that we have. The first mechanism is if you have a device that you've wanted to, that is say in multiple groups, and you're applying those a profile. There is a profile priority that is identified at the top. You'll see it said 100 at the top, or you identify which one, 100, 200, 300, and as whichever one wants that or whichever priority you want to apply to that specific device will get applied in that manner. If you create the second mechanism is an overriding or overwriting functionality that we have with the copy. So as you saw with the demo, I looked at a single device and then was copying up to the same group that it was in. In that scenario, the device profile would have gotten overwritten. So the group will apply it to everything in there. If you go back into that device specifically and you wanted to change some specific parameters, it will be identified that this profile has now been overridden, and it has additional configurations that it will hold static. So when a group profile changes, those group profile changes will be applied. However, the ones that you specifically wanted for that device will remain the same. Does that answer the question?
I guess so. So you give it a priority number, that 100.
That is correct.
Okay, and the higher the number, the one that'll win out.
That is correct.
Okay.
So if you put a number 1 on there, it'll always get the highest.
Okay, and then and once you start using MCS, you shouldn't go into the admin console and try to make any changes.
That is correct.
There is will it prevent you? Will it prevent you, or what if someone accidentally did that? It would just mess it up?
No, so there is a reconciliation option, so you will be able to continue to go into the admin console and make a change for a specific device. However, we have a reconciliation timer that is, you can set that to reconcile when you would like. By default, it is midnight at every night. And it'll go in, identify what has changed, and it'll reapply that group profile to that device. So if you go into admin console, make some changes, it'll reconcile, and then the group profile from MCS will be pushed back down onto that. So whatever changes will be lost.
Okay. So it won't happen immediately. By default, it'll happen at midnight. So the next day, it'll revert back to the MCS settings.
That is correct. And that's a setting that you can change within MCS to be whenever you would like to reconcile that.
Okay, that answers that. I do have another question on the Spectrum integration.
Continue.
Will you have to, if you're mostly using UIM for servers and mostly using Spectrum for network devices, will you have to discover all your servers in Spectrum and discover all your network devices in UIM, or will you only have to put them in one place and then the integration will make them in both places?
Robert, do you want to take that? Robert Vacanti, are you there?
I'm sorry, who are you calling out to?
Robert Vacanti.
He's connected.
Are you on hold?
Robert,
on mute,
you may
Robert?
be on mute.
But I've lost Jason to a customer. Robert.
Hey, Steve, I'm actually back on. So to answer that question, so no, you wouldn't. So if you're going to have all your servers within UIM, the integration will actually populate those models up into Spectrum. So I don't need to subsequently discover them in Spectrum again. From a network perspective, I hate to give you the answer, it depends, but it depends what you're going to do with those network models. So if Spectrum's monitoring your network devices from a fault management perspective, and then we sync those over, send those over to UIM, right, they're going to be rediscovered again, like through SNMP collector, so I can start getting performance statistics within there. So again, you're going to be pulling out of both, right? Spectrum pulling more from a fault management, and then UIM would pull the network devices from more of an SNMP performance or historical management. From a server perspective, though, you would sync those up into Spectrum, and Spectrum would just go ahead and ping, that device. So hope that answers your question.
I think so. So the Spectrum side, you don't have to discover the servers from UIM. The integration will carry them over.
Correct.
And then for UIM, I guess it depends on how.
We would bring the inventory over into there, and then they could be used, you know, for discovery. I'd have to double check. I think we still have to run the discovery within the S&MP collector probe to start getting stats on that. But let me double check. I would assume that's true, but I'll double check to see if they made it a little more automatic than that.
Okay, because we're waiting for the you know, the updates and the updated Spectrum gateway, and we were planning to put all the devices in UIM except all the server devices in UIM except for the servers that are ping only, and to just discover them in Spectrum. And so I guess from what you're saying, we won't have to discover all servers in Spectrum, just the ones that we want ping only, because UIM doesn't really do that by itself. And then for Spectrum, I guess we could see how we're going to need that, if we need that in UIM side, or because we're also using SOI, so we were told to use this gateway that's coming out and to send the alarms from UIM to Spectrum and then from Spectrum to SOI, because Spectrum will have already done the root cause and suppressed downstream events, so that this way when it gets to SOI, it's already been through that process. Are we on the right track?
That makes sense to me. Yeah, okay. That way you only have to really maintain one connector as well.
Okay. Thanks.
Hey, Jason, there's a question in the Q&A window regarding why would you want your network devices to be double polled, once in Spectrum and once in UIM? That's an additional load on these devices. Can you either speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, I'll speak to it briefly. So it would be double polling. They're really polling for essentially different items, though. You know, Spectrum's polling for just a couple of key attributes: one, availability, one of S&Ps there, if we have CPU and memory thresholds set, as well as any like interface stack changes within the device itself to see if it needs to remodel or redraw out connections. UIM again would poll via S&MP, but it's going to poll for more performance level statistics. You know, errors, discards, utilization, CPU, memory, etc. So even though it is two subsequent polling engines that would be there, they're really sufficing two different needs from a polling standpoint.
Awesome. And Chris Knowles, Jason asks, can I run my S&P collector probe on the same physical box as my Spectro server? I'm guessing that's untested.
I would have to guess that's untested as well, but I'll find out if there's any plans to see if we can consolidate that polling.
You might know Chris.
Yep, I'll go ahead and find out.
Yeah, awesome. And I can see we've got a couple more questions. Tyler, if you're still there, maybe you're answering the IPv6 question now.
That's right.
Yeah, cool. Dan Blanco from an ADA, NFA, UIM, how do you get items? Robert, maybe you can help answer Dan Blanco's question toward the bottom of the Q&A.
Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, but the two inventories will synchronize, so you don't literally need to run new discovery. They're both available in both products.
That's right. That's right.
And Michael Bowen, thanks for jumping in. Good to see you on the call. One of our resident experts on Service Operations Insight has chimed in the Q&A window. Paul Martin's asking about a ESB. I'm not sure who wants to tackle that one. I'm guessing this is a third-party ESB.
Yeah, that would be a sizable integration effort. There's not a plug-and-play mechanism of getting attached to any type of bus that's out there already to do some type of enterprise integration. Our goal is to have made all of these products, talk to each other effectively, but we don't have an integration then with a third-party's bus. It's the internal bus that's being used for all these integrations.
And we do have an audio question.
Great.
From the line of Matthew.
Hi. I'm curious, can UIM read SPM tests that are written by Spectrum to network devices the way eHealth is now? So we have Spectrum write the IPSLA test to routers to go router to router or router to device, and then eHealth picks it up and we can present that in NPC. Will UIM have the capability of reading those tests directly from the routers and presenting them along with NetFlow data? Does anyone hear me?
Yes, I can. Jason Breck, are you still there?
Yeah, Matt, I heard you. So, hey, how you doing, one?
Hey.
Two, I'd have to check. So I know we support IPSLA discovery within UIM with the SNMP collector. I was going to make sure there's no issue with us reading a test that was sent by Spectrum in the RTT Mon MIB on the Cisco device. So let me double check that. In theory, right, it should work. If we're writing the test to that MIB and then we're reading that MIB within the SNMP collector, we should pick that test up. But let me double check before I give you a confirmation.
Okay, and then, yeah, that would be great because we use that now very effectively to show IPSLA tests along with NetFlow in NPC, and it has our business partners satisfied. It's always blame the network, right? Now with that data, they don't have that option, so thank you.
Andrew, I can see you just posted looks like a follow-up comment. That if we don't get an answer, we know how to reach you. We can respond to that. Melissa, from a standard operating procedure perspective, do we typically post the chat to the forum, or can we selectively post part of the chat? How would you look at that?
We will post the full Q&A transcript. Any questions not answered now, we will get answered so that the Q&A transcript is fully populated.
Okay. And Andrew, I can see somebody's answering your question, your licensing question. So we've got just a couple more minutes. I do want to encourage everybody to select the polling tab to the right and below. In my screen, it's below the Q&A window. Select that poll. It's just one question we want to ask if this was worth your time. We certainly hope it was. Before I close it out officially, what I'd like to do is recognize the contributions from Robert, Terry, Jason, and Dan in the demo part of the call, if you will, and Tyler banging away at the questions at the Q&A. Some of you folks may recognize Tyler. He did one of these sessions last week, specifically focused on application delivery analysis and network flow analysis and some of the integrations. So from that call, we got a couple of requests. Hey, could you actually do the demos? For those of you who run systems, sometimes systems don't cooperate, and we had that experience this morning with Terry, but we recovered nicely. So thank you, Robert and Terry, for recovering nicely. With that, I think we can close out this call, re-invite everybody to the Thursday office hours. And if there are any final questions in the Q&A that we haven't answered, we will get to those right away. So Melissa, you can end the recording and folks can go about their day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Steve.
This concludes today's conference call. You may now disconnect.